Welcome to Undrafted Hockey Fan. I am Brad. Today we got a special guest, Neil Schwartz. He's a sports data guy. He's got his own podcast, My First Job in Sports. But go check that out on, I imagine, all the platforms and everything.
Everywhere.
So he said he just recorded one today, so you got one hot off the presses. So,
well, it's not posted yet. We're actually, it takes a little while for me to edit. I make too many mistakes, Brad. Come on.
That's fair. That's fair. I make no mistakes, so I just just post it.
Oh my God, you have to tell me your secret because
it is
so many.
It is my ADHD and just ripping the. I'm a lawnmower man, just rip it and go. Let me spin like a top. So today we got a couple topics we're gonna talk about. A little bit of sports philanthropy, sports tourism. We'll take a little quick break for an ad break and then do a little NIL. So let's just jump right into it. So we were just talking prior to this about some sports philanthropy and everything. So you mentioned, and this is going to be right off the rip. You said the NHL is not great at sports philanthropy, and I want to dig into that a little bit. Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, let me give a little bit of background before I go ahead and where this is coming from. So just like you said, I'm a sports data guy, and every year my company, SBRnet, we do an annual study of sports fans. Last year, we interviewed over 7,000 sports fans using an internet-based methodology. I'm not going to get too sciencey because I don't want to bore your listeners to tears. But, what we do is we speak to about 7,000 sports fans, and they are representative of the U.S. population ages 13 and older. So what we're doing is we're speaking to a representative group of people, and then grossing it up or weighting it up, as they say, in order to reflect the entire country for people 13 years and older. Sports philanthropy is one of the categories that we do ask about. We ask, one, do they contribute to sports-based philanthropy? And then two, how much do they give? And, when we look, I'm afraid, when we look at the NHL against, let's say, the NFL or some of the other leagues that are out there, we do see the NHL kind of falls below average on all, I hate to say it, on all the major categories, whether it's looking at fans who attend, fans who watch on TV, fans who stream, fans who do any two of those three or three of those things. The NHL underperforms when it comes to sports philanthropy. And you know what? I'm not 100% sure why. I am a hockey fan. I do go to hockey games. I actually a season ticket holder of the Panthers. Every week I go. Every game you go, you see the 50-50 things. You walk around the concourse, between periods, and there's always, something to support youth hockey. There's always stuff going on, but I have to admit, and I know better, by the way, Brad, than to use myself as an example of anything. That's the first thing they teach you in research school. Never, ever, ever use yourself as an example for anything because you're not.
I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. Why can't you? Same, all that stuff. So
yeah, I mean, so look, I was at one of the Stanley Cup Finals games. In fact, I was at the game, Florida versus Edmonton. I was at the game that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift were at, and of course, like an idiot, I was watching Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Probably more than I should have. Wasn't too far away, but I did manage to look up at the scoreboard a few times, and the number that was in the 50-50 jackpot was like phenomenal. It was like awesome. $275,000. I'm like, holy crap.
Wow.
And of course what I do, I went right out and, bought a raffle ticket. Did I win? No. But, my wife always tells me, dude, you don't play, you don't win. So stop bitching.
Yeah.
But, as a general rule, I have to say, Brad, I don't participate in those types of philanthropy efforts. Look, it's not like I don't love youth hockey. It's not like I don't love youth sports and youth participation. There's way too much good that, our youth and kids get from it. I mean, we've got an obesity crisis in this country. We've got a problem with video games where kids would rather sit on their couch and play video games than go out and play hockey or go out and play football or go out and play basketball. I'd rather see them go out and playing a little bit, getting some air, socializing with their friends. Sports offers so much. Yeah. But, yet I just find myself not putting my money where my mouth is, I guess is the best way to put it.
Hopefully this sparks the philanthropy bug for you and everything. So
guilt is a very interesting and a motivating force. And
shame, guilt,
shame. There's a whole bunch of things. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, like I said, that's the goal of this podcast is to reach enough people to shame them into going out and I'm a huge community based guy, right? We just moved, and my goal is to try and invest into the community. You are a representation of your community. And you got to if you want something out of it, you got to put something into it. And so,
No, you're right. And when I'm, look, and I have to be honest, the sports business to me has been very good to me, to my family. And I believe in giving back and putting back. And I really believe that, that's an important thing to do. I'm a pay it forward kind of guy. And, now you just used guilt. I just used guilt against myself. And now I'm going to go out and make a donation the next time I go to a Panther home game, which I
Awesome.
think it won't be till the first. I'm going. I'm going. My next game, I share tickets with a couple of the guys. My next game is going to be the night before Thanksgiving against the Flyers, who I grew up in Philadelphia. So there's a little bit of a, bit of a Flyer thing going on with the Panthers. So I kind of like that. Yeah.
Internal battle. There you go. Right. Well, luckily they're both not good at the same time. Or maybe when the Florida Panthers are going, the Flyers will come back up.
Oh, don't ever say that Panthers going down. I think the Panthers are going to be good for a while. Look, this year they've been bitten by the injury bug. I mean, when you lose, 4 guys from the team that won the Stanley Cup last year for the second time in a row, that's not easy. You're replacing, probably one of the best two-way players in hockey right now, Barkov. They lose Kachuk, their emotional leader. One of the defensemen, I forgot his name already, is out. And then, they lost also, oh God, one of the fourth line guys. I forgot his name, but again, it's hard when you lose, guys at a high level and especially your emotional leader, Matthew Kachuk and Sasha Barkov.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, that's like when you have guys that are, I mean, Barkov is like, as NHL players say, he's one of the most impactful players, underrated players of the whole league. So you have a guy who's a brand. I mean, mind you, Matthew Tkachuk was in GQ magazine, right? So that shows you they're trying to market him as such, right? And so he really puts an emphasis in the of the NHL. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the cover of the next or cover the next NHL game, right? Just because that impact that he has, and people are, I mean, he's one of the top 10 sales of jerseys and everything. So,
what's interesting? One of the things that's really interesting is that, when I look at our data, when you look at minor league sports, like minor league hockey and minor league baseball, which by the way we measure, those fans are very philanthropic. They don't obviously give as much, let's say, as fans of many other sports, but they are very philanthropic when it comes to sports, giving to sports charities. I got news to you. One of the most philanthropic groups of fans are, in fact, from the WNBA, which is kind of an unusual, actually, you would think, look, I think there's something to be said for women, maybe have a little bit more empathy, and relate a little bit better. But women do pretty well when it comes to sports philanthropy as a percentage. Look, but the bottom line is, Brad, there are still more male hockey fans. There are still more male sports fans. So if you're looking at, what I like to call the tonnage or the number of people, men still far outweigh women. But if you're looking as a percent of fans, so the number of percent of fans who give, women fans as a percent of all women fans, it's pretty high. And, there's just a number of different ways that you can look at this data.
Well, and I think when you're looking at the data, when you look at the data, there's more men of the big four sports. There's more men probably interested in it, so you're going to see a higher percentage of maybe the women give us a higher percentage, but they're a lower percentage of fans, right? It could be.
Well, here's the thing. It's interesting. We just did a report actually focused on women's sports fandom, not women's sports, but women's sports fandom. And the conclusion that we drew was that, and we did some, I'm going to get all sciencey here. Sorry.
I love that.
We did what they call a predictive regression analysis. So what we did was we went and used the back data to project where we think we're going to be in the future. And not an unusual process, by the way. And when you look at it, probably in the next 3, maybe 4 years, it's going to be close to 50-50, the number of female fans versus the number of male fans. In fact, the male fans have gotten pretty flat, and yet we're increasing the number of female fans. And I think that's a really good thing, by the way.
Absolutely.
And I do think that, parity or having an even split male to female, I think is a good thing for sports, especially some of those sports that have always been considered kind of the male domain, football. Everybody thought, it's a guy's sport, but you know what? Women love it too. And women account for, a lot of merchandise sales. Women account for a lot of, other expenses related to the sports, which actually is the way that, a lot of these sports can grow. Women, guys, a lot of guys own jerseys, women don't. But the funny thing is, though, that if you look at a lot of the stuff on, let's say, Fanatics, or even you go into the fan shops, a lot of the gear, and by the way, I did a study on this about 5 or 6 years ago for Major League Baseball, but a lot of the gear is more made for men, and they use a term in the apparel world called pink it and shrink it, which means they basically just take the men's version of something, make it smaller, change the color, and all of a sudden, bingo, bango, they're ready to sell to women. But guess what we found out? Women don't want to be treated that way. Women want to be treated as, they want to be treated as a woman, and they want to be treated, women button their shirts. If it's like a baseball jersey, women button their shirts the opposite way that men do. You know what? Most of the manufacturers didn't realize that. I mean, how basic is that? Women have a different completely body structure. And I'm not just talking about, chest or boobs or whatever you want to talk about. There's even, women are different size chests and different size boobs. And these manufacturers are just so slow to react, all they want to do is try to get the product out there without really thinking, hey, you know what? We need to probably go through a complete redesign, if we want to sell more jerseys. I mean, I hate to say it, you look at a hockey jersey in particular, it's not very form-fitting.
It's huge.
Sure. And in many cases, it looks like a tent. And, if I'm a woman, and especially if I'm a decent figure, maybe I don't want to wear that big tent jersey. Maybe there's another option here. But the hockey jersey guys don't have other options.
I hear you. Okay, and so we were talking more about the philanthropy and everything. And again, I love the emphasis on women being into the sports and everything. So, and I think one of the things you're talking about is you see a lot more like there's talks about being the hockey mom or the hockey dad and everything, and going to the rinks and everything. So you mentioned also sports tourism as well. So can you speak on that and just some of the industry it is? Because I mean, there's tournaments, people are going out and seeing hotels and traveling and all that stuff. So
look, when we look at sports tourism, we look at it from 3 different kind of perspectives or 3 different directions. Number one, you have the sports tourism that people like to go support their favorite team. So, I know you're a Red Wings guy. Let me ask you, Brad, do you go to any away games during the course of the year? Do you go to like Chicago?
I went to Columbus recently.
Okay, there you go.
I went to Columbus. I've been to Minneapolis.
Did you go for the Stadium Series game?
Dude, I wanted to. It was one of those where we got the baby coming. And I was like, I can't. I got to put the dollars towards the savings account. So, but I wanted to so bad.
Being a season ticket holder, they sent out an email that said, hey, if you want to go to the Stadium Series, they're playing Stadium Series. Actually, they're playing the Winter Classic game. I think I got this right. The Winter Classic game is in Miami at the Marlins Stadium. Which is going to be interesting. Yeah. But the only thing about the Marlins Stadium is they can keep the roof closed, so they can, they probably can control the temperature a little bit better. They can keep the temperature down. And I know also they've got a very special rink, that will keep the temperature and the humidity down. The humidity is actually more dangerous or more difficult to manage than the actual heat. Yeah. And, I don't know if you've ever seen like a number of years ago, I think it was even when the Panthers were playing in their very first Stanley Cup back in 92? I want to say maybe 1990. Well, no, 1998 was it? I forgot what year it was. And they had to put in special dehumidifiers in the old Miami arena because it got foggy. From the humidity. So, they had to put in dehumidifiers. Now, what's going to be interesting though is Tampa. Tampa's going to be outdoors. Yeah. And it's going to be, and Tampa gets hot. I mean, I live just north of Miami in Boca Raton, which is in Palm Beach County. It's warm, no question about it. But it's going to be indoors. So they'll be able to control the temperature a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see. They're going to play the Winter Classic or the Stadium Series game in Tampa. But the point is, both games are in Florida, which I think is and you know what? It's going to be very interesting to see if, the game, the Flyers, the Panthers are playing the Rangers, and the Ranger fans are notoriously good about travel. They're in fact one of the top travel fans among NHL fans. So it'll be very interesting to see what percent of fans actually travel to the event, because let me tell you, every time I've looked at the economic impact that these events bring, they cost a lot. There's no question about it. I mean, you've got, I can go on the expenses, whether it's security and all these things that go into it. But, the money that it generates in terms of revenue is just fantastic. you know, and usually everybody wins.
Yeah.
Hotels wins, restaurants win, you know, movie theaters, stores, you name it. Fans come to these games, you know, with, you know, figuratively speaking, with a bunch of money or a credit card ready to use. And,
Yeah.
you know, as an example, just real quickly, we've been measuring sports fandom travel. And, you know, when we look at NHL fans over the last few years, you know, for the past few years, they've actually, you know, we started measuring it in 2020, 2021. And, you know, after right after the pandemic, we saw fans traveling a little bit. I mean, it almost jumped up by about 50%, but now it's really kind of leveled off among NHL fans traveling to support their team. But you've got other aspects of travel. You've got one, people that travel to support the team. Two, people that travel to support their families. You know, how many kids? I know you have kids, right? How many?
I have one's coming on the way, but I was one of four, and we 3 played hockey and then 1 figure skated. So we did the travel.
Okay, so you know, my daughter played soccer for a little while, played travel and all that, and you know, you used to go to those games, and you know, you'd hang out in the city, at the hotels, it's restaurants, it's just a whole bunch of expenses. And you know, you've got those fans, but then you've got also fans that travel to support their own sports habit. You know, whether they're going to participate in a tennis tournament or a pickleball tournament or running a marathon. I mean, the New York City Marathon just is an incredible event, and I think you know, I forgot the number of people that are there, but it's just tens of thousands.
Yeah.
And these people are, you know, try to get a hotel room in Manhattan during marathon week. Just try.
Yeah.
It's
brutal.
It's insane. I know. I've done it. And
you're a marathon runner?
No, I was a marathon counter. One year I actually did a project for one of the running shoe companies, and they wanted to, you know, they wanted to be able to talk about, you know, what percent of various runners were wearing their shoes. So we actually developed an interesting methodology of using low-level cameras and computer aided counting situation. And like we were doing AI before AI was even used.
Yeah.
And the idea was that we were literally able to, as you know, runners cross the finish line, the system was actually able to record what kind of shoes they were wearing. We then matched that up to their bib numbers. And you were able to say, oh, you know, 10% of the people who finished, you know, in the top 100 were wearing Asics or wearing, you know, Brooks or whatever they were wearing. So, you know, isn't it? But let me tell you, getting a hotel room the week of the New York City Marathon was not easy.
Brutal. Yeah. I imagine. Well, again, not only people are participating, the families that are coming out to watch them and everything, and then vendors, and I mean, it's a huge event. I mean, you have people that are bringing in more food, like all their local stores and everything. Like it's just like crazy traffic. And
in 2024, there were 27 million NHL fans that actually, or hockey fans, let's say, that traveled to support either to support the team, to support their family, or to support their own sports habit, whatever might be. It's a big number.
It is.
It's a big number. And so, you know, people need to really pay attention to it and understand it and really try to develop it, because it is a big number. There's no question about it.
I mean, my brothers are adults, right? They're in their 30s, and they travel to Minnesota every year for a hockey tournament, right? You know, it's just, and they have guys coming from Florida and California and Utah to go to Minnesota for these types of tournaments. And again, these are just for fun, right? There's just a bunch of guys getting together, you know?
This is why also the sports work so well in places like Las Vegas and also Miami, because especially like I was in Vegas one year for a tournament, for some sort of a conference. And I remember I was in like Mandalay Bay or one of those hotels.
Yeah.
And the Eagles were playing on Sunday, and I was there like on Friday. And, you know, it was like one Eagles fan after another, just rolling up in limos and, you know, Ubers, and, you know, they're coming in wearing green in their hats and they're yelling and whooping it up and all that. But guess what? They're also going to do? They're going to spend a butt ton of money. And, you know, that's what people are banking on. No question about it.
Eagles fans and Lions fans travel very well. I mean,
Lions fans do travel very well.
Yeah.
So do Bears fans too, by the way.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's the Midwest. We had to, you know, in the winter we had to get out of here, and, you know,
Ohio State fans are monster. Michigan fans are monster. You know, University of Michigan fans, monstrous travel numbers. I mean, that's why they're so coveted for, you know, major bowl games.
Yeah. I mean, I was just in Ann Arbor today, so it it is hectic over there, especially on game days and everything.
Yes.
You can't put 100,000 people in a stadium and be like, yeah, it was really, the traffic's really light today. You know, it's not how that works.
Not the way. I remember also, I love sports. I've been going to games. I will tell you, my daughter went to University of Florida, and you know, usually once a year at least, maybe more, I would go up to Gainesville on game day, you know, for a game. And, you know, look, again, I've been lucky enough to go to Super Bowls and NHL finals. And
yeah,
I've been to a lot of things. I'm in the Olympics, which I'd love to go, and I haven't been to a World Cup final, but I will tell you that there is very little that matches up to an SEC game on Saturday at University of Florida or, you know, LSU or Tennessee,
Alabama or anything.
Any of those places.
Yeah.
I mean, I've actually been to Michigan, and so I can claim that I've been to a Michigan game on game day. And I've been to Ohio State also a couple times on game day, and those are wild also. But I have to tell you, because of the weather in Florida, it's like a special kind of wild. You know? It really was.
You get people that are just, I mean, you don't know how many people taking their shirts off in December in Michigan, you know, in Florida, people are like, yeah, like just ripping them off and everything. So it's a different energy there. Right.
But, you know, but also look, a lot depends. Look, the Florida team hasn't been that great. I mean, geez, they just won their last game and they fired their coach afterwards. Although I think, you know, they were Billy Napier's head was on a platter anyway, but, you know, again, it's, you know, the funny thing is, Brad, fans don't care at the end of the day. All they want is a winner. They don't care who the coach is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know we're going to talk about NIL later, and, you know, they don't care that one kid's getting paid, you know, $100,000 and another kid's getting paid $200,000. They don't care.
Yep.
All they want to do is win. They want to see their teams win, and that's what they want. And that's what really kind of, you know, that kind of beats the money drum.
So, and that's one of the things one of the trick questions I ask is if the team you cheer for traded their captain, but won a Stanley Cup that year, would you take it? And people have a hard time with that because you know, your captain, your emotional leader, like, but the goal is the Stanley Cup, right? Or the goal is championship, you know?
You know what the thing is though, Brad? Sports, you know, look, I don't know how old you are. I'm an old crusty baby boomer. You know, I remember, you know, my family, I was lucky enough, my family were Philadelphia Eagles and Flyers season ticket holders. And, you know, when a guy played for the Eagles, he played for 10 years, 12 years, 8 years, whatever. You know, you bought a jersey for a guy, you know, and he was there for a few years. Yeah. Now you buy a jersey with a guy's name and number on it, and guess what? Next year, there's a good chance he's not on the team. Yeah. You know, sports has changed dramatically. Although after watching Ohtani play, I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to friggin' wear one of those jerseys. That is some athlete. I will tell you. He's a
monster.
He win last night. I mean, and he looked a little tired to me. Yeah. But I mean, he was on base, I think, the night before like 8 times. You know, and then he had to come out and pitch. Yeah,
exactly. There's no breaks. He doesn't get to hang out in the just hang out. You know,
no, I mean, they were talking about it a lot. I mean, and I was listening, you know, they were saying, you know, the average pitcher, you know, gets, you know, 3 days off, 4 days off, spends time in the bullpen, watches a lot of video, watches the batters, watches this, watches that. Yep. Ohtani played the night before till after midnight Los Angeles time, I think it was.
Yeah.
18, you know, it was an 18-inning game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then the guy goes home. He's got to try to get some sleep.
Yeah.
He's got to try to rest his body a little bit, and then he's went out and pitched. I don't know how many innings he pitched last night, but
I forget. But either way, like he's a monster. It's one of the reasons he's one of the highest paid, right? You know, so
he's a phenom. I mean, I look, obviously I never saw Babe Ruth play, but
sure, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's fair.
You know, the funny thing is, I have a funny line about that. So a lot of times I'll meet somebody and they'll be even older than me.
Yeah.
And I'll ask them as a joke, you know, they talk about things and all that. I said, did you ever see Babe Ruth play? And they said, no. I'm like, and they say yes. And I'm like, dude, you're old.
Yeah, you're way old. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, I was born in 1990, so I'm 35, so I'm still a young. But I was, mind you, like Red Wings won in 98 or 97 and 98 and 2002.
Here's the bad news. You ready? Bad news. Bad news coming. Bad news alert. Whoop whoop.
Go.
My kids are older than you.
That's not bad news for me. That's bad news for you. I mean,
I have twins that are older than you.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, they're. I mean, I'm sure they're in a great age bracket because they're, you know, close to me. So
they're 39.
They're
I have grandchildren, dude. I'm a grandfather, and I love watching sports with them. I love giving them sports stuff. They love getting, you know, jerseys, hats, sneakers, you name it. They love free stuff.
Of course. So let's take a quick break, talk about DraftKings, and then we're going to jump to NIL after this. So stay tuned to this. Hockey is back, and this season, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, brings you all the speed, skill, and nonstop action you love. DraftKings Sports delivers the unmatched intensity of the NHL right to your fingertips, from the player props to the thrill of live in-game betting. Every drop of the puck is your shot to win big. And I'm a Red Wings fan. We all know that. A big, huge hockey fan. And we got a guest that's, as you know, Neil is a Florida Panthers fan. If you're looking to put money between the Red Wings or the Florida Panthers, I know they're injured, but my money would be going on the Florida Panthers. So go check out those odds at DraftKings Sportsbook. If this is if I needed this product, it's what I'd use. So light the lamp all season long with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccbg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Blue Hill Casino and Resort. Pass-through of per wager. Tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limit time offer. Copyright NHL 2025. All rights reserved. And we got Neil back here. So talking about NIL, I know when we originally talked, I said I was in favor of it. You know, yeah. And you had a pushback saying there may be some contradiction there, that you may not be the biggest fan of NIL. So let's go with that.
Well, let me kind of separate that statement out a little bit. I do believe that college athletes should be paid. Mm-hmm. So let me just lay that right on the table now. I do think, though, however, that the NCAA butchered the entire NIL process so poorly. Number one is that there are literally no guardrails. There are literally no barriers. There are literally, it's like the Wild West, mm-hmm. And in this day and age, if you're going to do something like that, you need to throw up guardrails. You need to have, oversight. You mm-hmm. need to have barriers. You need to have rules. Why, Brad, aren't they making it mandatory that every person who gets money from NIL puts 10%, 20%, 30% away in trust for when they're out of school? Because I don't know what the numbers are yet, but I will be willing to bet you that a vast percentage of athletes that are getting NIL, by the time they get out of school, of course, they're probably not going to go to the pros, but the money's going to be gone.
Absolutely.
And this is a chance to help, a number of these kids, whether it's help their families or help themselves or whatever it is. But that's one problem. The other problem is that it's not even about sport anymore. It's just, it's about who has the most money, and it's yep. And I also, look, I also think it's an issue for gambling, because I talk about this all the time. I mean, you've got, a situation where, let's say, the center for a Division I football team is, getting $100,000 in NIL money, and his backup's getting $20,000. And all of a sudden the guy goes down, and the backup's playing, and he's like, hey, the guy that I substituted for is getting $100K. I'm getting $20K. He's driving a better car. He's eating in better restaurants, and he's got a hotter girlfriend. Yeah. And I'm thinking, but I'm playing his position.
Yeah.
So who's to say, somebody comes along, as we found out, in the NBA situation, somebody comes along, tries to influence them negatively. Hey, what's them to maybe, snap a ball or two over the top of the quarterback's head out of shotgun formation?
Yeah.
Who knows? And that to me, again, is another situation where, there's just no guardrails. There's no oversight. There's no nothing. And then the other thing is, and this also disturbs me, I guess I'm a guy with a lot of issues when it comes to NIL right now. But, you do know who the number one money earner of NIL money is, right?
Probably the NCAA.
Well, no. The person who the NCAA athlete who earned the most NIL money. Do you know the answer to that question?
I don't know. Go ahead.
Liz Dunn from LSU. She's a gymnast.
Mm-hmm.
She ain't earning her money because she's such a great athlete, because she's not. She's a good athlete. She's on the LSU gymnastics team, but she basically is selling her sexual appeal. She's selling gorgeous. Her sexuality. She's not getting paid because she's such a great athlete. She's getting paid because she's really pretty. She looked great in workout wear. She's representing Viore manufacturer, doing great, athletic athleisure brand and all that. But again, no guardrails, no, no rules, no nothing. She's just out there making as much money as she can. And frankly, she is. And then the other thing is also is, a lot of schools in Michigan was one of them, by the way, that had a collective, where collectives were there the schools weren't supposed to be directly involved in this. They were supposed to be like an arm's length transaction. So a lot of schools created or had created these things called collectives. The idea of the collective was that it was not run by the school, not managed by the school, not owned by the school. Maybe sanctioned by the school was the only rule. But these collectives were basically a third-party independent organization that went out, raised money from boosters, raised money for NIL, and then handled distribution to the kids. Well, guess what? Now the most recent court case said they don't even have to do that. The schools now do it on their own. So the schools can go out and bring in the money. The schools go out and give out the money. It's,
they're regulating themselves, basically. I mean, it's like having,
it's like asking your 4-year-old kid, to regulate himself. Come on, really?
Yeah, right. Like, hey, make sure I'm gonna leave for the night. Just make sure you behave before you. It's like, no, you don't do that. So
I mean, and the other part of this is that the stupid transfer portal. That's another thing. Between the NIL situation and the transfer portal, I mean, I think that college sports is completely. I don't know if we're allowed to curse on this show, so I won't.
You go right ahead.
I mean, I think they have fucked it up so bad. I mean, look, a kid goes to a school, let's say he pockets 100 G's. All of a sudden, a new coach comes in, or a coach installs a new offense, or whatever he does, and maybe they want a running quarterback, or they want, all that. This kid says, hey, I don't want to do that. I want to, I want to throw. So he puts himself out on the transfer portal. He doesn't like that coach. He goes to another school. I don't like that. If they want to do this transfer portal thing, I don't have an issue, because I believe that people should be able to play and go where they want. But I do think, again, guardrails, restrictions, and guidelines. If a kid goes on the transfer portal, he's got to be, in my opinion, locked into that school for at least 2 years. You can't just jump from school to school to school.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically acting like free agents, right? Because the thing is, I mean, everyone makes fun of this, where like, imagine that you're not a student athlete, you're an athlete who goes to school. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
if they actually go to school,
right? A lot of these guys that are playing at a high level, they're probably not going to class. They're being helped with tutors and all this stuff. Support. You're like, okay, how much work you actually do? Hey, maybe he may have to do that midterm because he's got a big game on Saturday. Like these are not coming out as college educated. They're coming out as athletes,
Yeah, I mean, some of these people are coming out, I mean, here's another example. I don't know if you saw this one. This one really got me. There's a bunch of basketball players that were in the NBA G League, that's their developmental league.
Yep.
So they played for the G League, they got paid, and then they decided, because of NIL, they're going back to college, and they petitioned the NCAA for eligibility. I think one kid got 1 year, one person got 2 years, and then they got a shit ton of money. NIL. So not only were they actually professionals before, but they went backwards to college and made money again. Dude, is that what you're really trying to have happen here? Because if it is, why not just call it minor league, or why not just call it something else, or instead of, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So and I actually, that happened with a player in the ECHL, the East Coast Hockey League, and he was playing professional hockey, and he went back over to, I think, Arizona State, and it's like, okay, probably for the money, right? And so one of the things, and this is what I was trying to talk about, is an alleviation. And I agree, there's so many more issues, but I believe, with football, there is no G League, there's no developmental league, but in hockey there is. So, and guys are getting drafted at 17, 18 years old, at the youngest, right? And so one of the things, one of my pros for it was, I was saying that you should raise the draft age to 20. That allows these kids to go to college, because in my opinion, a lot of these guys that are drafted are just not going to become pro. It's just the odds are against them, right? And so to me, it was to incentivize guys to go to college. So at least if you got a long-term injury that you're not going to make the show, or anything, you're actually going to come out with a college degree that shows you that, hey, you did something, and you're leaving kids better off than if they went to school for 3, 4, 5 years and then they didn't pass their accounting classes.
Right. In theory, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, you can't tell, it's like slavery. I hate to say it. You can't tell somebody what they can and cannot do.
Yeah.
And, I think, look, there are some guardrails. There should be some guidelines, but I watched last year, I saw some of those young kids, maybe it was last year or 2 years ago, that kid, Macklin Celebrini, I forgot where he looked like he was just out of high school.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, this kid's going to go into an NHL locker room. Now, it just so happens he's a great hockey player.
Yeah.
But still, I'm not even sure he was old enough to drink.
No. Oh, absolutely not. He's now 19 at 18 or 19. Like he started at the university, I think at 17.
17.
Yeah. Like crazy. I mean, like it's
crazy. It is. So. But the problem is, again, if you would have said, look, you have to go do 2 years in college or whatever, they're going to run to court and they're going to get that, they're going to get that overturned in, as fast as you can say NHL, because it's just the way the courts are now. I mean, they, it usually favors the player, the worker, or whatever you want to call it. But should it? I don't know. Look, if I'm a kid coming out of school and I'm a hockey phenom and somebody waves a $5 million contract in front of me and a $5 million bonus, and I know I'm going to be able to pay off my parents' mortgage, and I know I'm going to be able to buy myself a hot car, providing, of course, I have a driver's license. Guess what? I'd probably do the same thing.
So I'll tell you, this is one of the things that happened last year. It was a guy named Marco Kasper. He's on an entry-level contract with the Red Wings. And so he could be he can go back and forth between the AHL. And on game days, he would be brought up to the club league. Right. And on the off days, he would be on paper sent down to the AHL for cap space reasons. So, and on game days, he was making his salary of $950,000, whatever the entry-level contract is. And then in those days between, he stayed in Detroit, right? Or he stayed with the team, but he was making 90 grand. And so if you think about it as a player, you're like, why would Marco Kasper, in this case, if a school offered him 200 grand, he's like, well, at least it's guaranteed. I might as well just go to school. I play less games, less on my body. Like, it's similar competition. I can probably show off because I'm a little bit better than the rest of the competition. And so like that's a case where he's not making 90 grand. Right. And how, and then he's an exception that he, like, I mean, there's so many prospects that signed their ELCs, and they got 90 grand is pretty standard. So you're like, okay, why don't I just go to college and make 100 or 110, 150? I mean, Gavin McKenna, the rumors were that he was offered $750,000 to go play at Penn State, which is not known as a hockey school.
No, not at all.
So I mean, this is a kid that, like, if Penn State's like, hey, we're going to give you $1.5 million to play next year because he's the number one overall draft this up and coming 2026. I mean, he's going to make $950 in the NHL, or he can make maybe 1.5 at Penn State. It's like, now he's following the money. You know what I mean? Like, so there's these things that you look at and you're like, okay, like, what's the cash exactly? So and again,
the money, babe.
And then going, like you said, talking about betting, right? Like, is this kid, okay, now the kids maybe the goalie, maybe he's only making like 100 grand, maybe, in comparison to, a guy like Gavin McKenna. And then a sports book says, hey man, throw this game, play like crap, and we'll give you 25 grand for this one game in the first game of the playoffs. And he's like, that's halfway, that's a good car, dude.
Look, hockey's probably a harder game to probably do that with, unless you're a goaltender. I mean, look, goaltender can, whiff, whiff on a shot and make it look like, hey, I just whiffed on it, or I was screened, or whatever. Yeah. But, other sports, it's, look, basketball, guy can miss free throws. In the case of what's going on now, the player basically was hurt, and he told, the mob guys, that he was hurt and he wasn't going to play. And, the mob guys loaded up, money on the opposite team, and, football, another one, there's certain games I think that are a little easier or tougher to let's do that on. I mean, look, baseball's had its share of controversies but, there's really not, well, I guess there are in baseball. I guess, look, you could throw it a batter or two, there's a lot of things you can do. But the one sport that, always seemed pretty on the up and up to me was hockey, because the only guy that really, mattered was the goalkeeper.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of where, again, we're unfortunately in a spot where NIL and sports betting is so new. By the way, and one of my biggest things with, like, looking at guys in the NHL where, like, you have a domestic violence thing and you get 12 game suspension. Right. Shane Pinto has someone else bet on other sports and has his friend do it through his account, and gets suspended for half a season.
It's nuts. I mean, I don't know if you kept up with the latest decision that was made by the NCAA, but look, this could be the second dumbest decision ever made in the history of sports. Now, there's got to be something dumber, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the NCAA is, as of November 1, is allowing college athletes to bet on professional sports. How effing dumb is that?
Yeah.
How effing dumb is that?
Yeah.
I mean, really, why don't you just tell them, go do whatever you want, you know?
Yeah. Why limit it all? Right. Like, oh, yeah. Well, mind you, they might have played with a guy who was on the team last year. And he's like, no, dude, I got money on this. I'll split it with you. I'll put $1,000 down as 10-1 odds. I'll give you $5,000 if I win. You do X, Y. You don't make it, So
I would love to have been in the room when that decision was made. I would love to have been in the room. I would have stood up and I would have called those guys the dumbest mother effers on the planet.
Motherfuckers, you can say it's okay.
I probably never. No, I don't.
I'll say it. That's fine. I'll say it for you.
As far as I'll go. But dumbest mother effers on the planet. I mean, really? It's like, why don't you just go give the guys, the keys to a Ferrari and let them go drive, 100 miles an hour down. What's the main? What's the
Woodward?
94?
Yeah, 94. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. I mean, and
it is.
I think we talked about it before. Like, and again, sports betting, like it's we talked about it before, and this is one they talk about is, if you have a heroin addiction, you see it on their face. If you have a sex addiction, you end up, you get caught a lot of times, right? There's suspicious activity. Gambling addiction is so easy; it can go on your phone, and the husband can lose $100,000, and the wife might never know, right?
How about college students? You have you have your mom or dad's credit card.
Yep.
You've got a fake ID. Show me a college kid that doesn't have a fake ID at this point. I mean,
yeah.
So, when the company say, "Oh, we're verifying against your driver's license," well, if you got a fake driver's license, guess what? Pretty easy, easy to pull that one off. And you got mom and dad's credit card. I will tell you that, I do read about it. You do hear about, look, there's going to be a lot of kids that are going to be in trouble because they gambled away, tuition. They gambled away their living expenses. But the other side of the coin is I know a situation of a professor who's a fairly well-known professor at, I don't even want to say the school because he might give it away, but he did not grow up. His family was not able to afford to send him to a really good school and all that. He basically got into an amazing school. He's an amazing math guy. He's an economist and all that. He basically gambled his way through school to pay his tuition. He won so much money that he was able to pay for undergraduate, grad school, and then get his PhD.
That's amazing.
Yes. I mean, so obviously he had a system and it worked.
1 in a million, right? It's one of the, you know what I mean? Like it's not as common, right? He is the NHL star of gambling where most people don't walk away winners, right? It's, if it's 50-50 raffle, you're one of the 99% that did not win, and again, phenomenal for him. Like, and that's, but assume you're not you're the rule, not the exception, right? No. And again, but
it's
again,
tough. I mean, it's, look, the college thing is real. Like, I'll tell you a quick story. When I was in college, so I'm in my 60s and I went to Syracuse and I graduated in 1979. In my sophomore year, look, I've been known to place a bet or two. Look, I gambled when I was in college too. I actually did more than that, but that's not story for the 70s. It's fine. Wait. That's another podcast. But my roommate actually got into the bookie for so much money. His father had to come up to school, pay off the bookie, and took him out of school. I mean, he was into him for thousands of dollars. Now, I don't know how this bookie let him get so deep into it, but I guess that's what bookies are supposed to do.
Yep. That's it. So, I mean, and again, that's kind of, it can be a silent killer. And I think we should raise the gambling age. I think it should be 21. I just think, again, fake IDs, I understand that too, but it's one of those, it's a deterrent, right? Hey, as much as you can, hey, you try and raise the ages. Hopefully some people you can deter some, but
you do your best. I mean, look, the other thing is Brandon, I think that, some of this responsibility does fall back on parents a little bit. I will say, look, my parents did a really good job. I've always been known to have a strong work ethic. My children have good work ethic. They like to believe they understand the meaning of a dollar.
Yeah.
Look, they've grown up with money. So, I mean, I think and I grew up with money.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's different, but, I do think that some of this does fall, though, on the parents. I mean, right,
Absolutely.
wrong, good, bad. And I realize those are all value judgment words or judgment words.
Yeah.
But I do think that, some of these things need, I mean, look, it's not just about, hey, look both ways before you cross the street. That's not a value state. That's not a judgmental statement. That's a fact, dude.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
But, I do think, understanding what's right and wrong, what's good and bad, what's fair and not fair, what's ethical, not ethical, these are all judgment calls.
Yeah.
And I think that it is up to the parents in a lot of ways. And, what's a shame is that a lot of parents just either they don't have the judgment or they don't care.
They phone it in. I mean, I'm a former teacher. I saw kids that, like they needed to, it was a lot of parents. I called and I said, hey, your kid's failing. He's not doing, or he's about to fail. And the parents are like, I got to focus on work. I'm working 3 jobs, man, in which that's a different case, but sometimes I just don't care. And it's just incredibly frustrating. And so
my wife was a teacher. She said the same exact thing, by the way.
It's sad, man. It really is. And, it's a lot of the teacher's the enemy. It's like, no, like I'm genuinely not, I'm trying to be, I want to raise good kids. I want to raise good value kids. And, you do the best you can, and so.
Well, the problem is also, I mean, look, the times are different. 70% of parents in working households, both parents work.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, when they come home, a lot of times you got to schlep the kid to sports, dance
Piano
class,
lessons.
karate,
Yeah.
Jewish kid goes to bar mitzvah lessons sometimes, it's all different things. So, life isn't quite as easy. Look, it seems to be life has gotten a little bit harder, which is weird because you think, with all the conveniences we have and all the inventions and all the AI and the internet and everything else, it'd be easier, but it's not.
Yep. No, life is more convenient, but I'd say it's harder, right? It's easier to get a food delivered to you. It's easier to get to hail a car, right? There's these creature comforts that we have. And now we're off, again, it used to be gambling, going back to gambling. You used to have to go down to the racetrack and you had to go put your money at a bookie, right? Or you had to go somewhere and now it's all handheld. It's right there. It's so easy to click, right? And
the bookie's an endangered species. I mean, I remember my father used to go to our local barber and, he would make his bets with, I would sit there looking for the Playboy magazine because I know he used to always have one. My father would be placing bets and it was kind of an accepted thing. But, again, it's things, the bookie has gone the way of the dinosaur. Thanks to online gambling.
Well, and going back to just to wrap it up, there's a reason I don't do hard drugs like cocaine. I know myself. I know myself. I know I love it, and that's my issue. Is that you got to know? I'm like, hey, I know my limits. Like it's same when hey, it's the reason I don't really drink. It's like I don't like to have one drink. I like 9. And it's like I got to you got to put guardrails in yourself, and that just comes with maturity and age, right? Making mistakes, and the problem is when you make a mistake at betting tens of thousands of dollars or $1,000 in the case of your friend, that's a hard mistake to make, and you don't realize how deep you are until you're in, right?
But if you don't learn your lesson and you make the same mistake twice, I have no sympathy for you. You know what? We all make mistakes. People make mistakes. Mm-hmm. It's what you do next that matters.
Yep.
We're all going to make mistakes. We're humans. We're fallible.
Yep.
Our judgment's effed up in many cases. We think we're doing the right thing and we're not. I mean, I can go on and on with this.
Sure.
But again, people make mistakes, and you live with it. It's what you do next that really matters.
Yep. And again, I think your wisdom, you're in your 60-year-old, your wisdom, like I said,
yeah. Easy with that age crap, Brad.
Yeah, I know.
I'm never coming back on.
I'm quoting the source. That's all I'm doing. Was it I don't forget the sourcing, PLL or whatever, the APP. There you go, APP. There you go. So, anyways, Neil, I know I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I appreciate you coming on. I think we want to cover so many topics. I know in our pre-interview that we talked, but you did a great job with NIL and the sports tourism and philanthropy. And so remind people where, again, they can find you.
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want to plant one seed. I love sports, and this enthusiasm and the energy and everything we talked about today. It's real.
Yep.
Real. This is who I am. But there's 3 words that I live by, Brad, that have always driven me. I've been in the sports business 25 years. Sports are fun. At the end of the day, it's fun. You know, have some fun with it. If you can't smile, talk about sports, go to a game, watch it on TV, watch a streaming thing, you know, try to watch it under a game while you're under the table while your wife's yelling at me because you're not paying attention to her. Jeez, I've never done that.
No, never.
But my point is sports are fun. So, you know, if you want to learn a little bit more about, you know, what I do, you can go to sbrnet.com. And Neil at SBRnet is my email address. I do answer everybody. We've got a great podcast. It's called My First Job in Sports. It's on every podcast platform, Spotify, Apple, you name it, Buzzsprout. You can get it anywhere. And it's also on YouTube, by the way. So we do it in audio as well as a video version. And then I also have an event. Actually, the event's next Thursday. It's actually next Friday. It's called Get in the Game. And it's in Baltimore. This is the 3rd year we've done it. It's actually focused on helping students of color get jobs in the sports business.
Love that.
Yeah, it's just a kind of a personal passion project for me.
Yeah.
And it's something I really love. I love the sports business. It's been really good to me. But most of all, Brad, it's fun. Absolutely. People ask me what I do. I tell them what I do. They're like, dude, that's a job?
Yeah.
I'm like, not only is it a job, it's fun as shit.
Yep.
And because I get to talk to guys like you, Brad. That's why it's fun.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. So if you ever do an event in Detroit, let me know. I will definitely be there. So
check me out on Instagram. I forgot what it is. SBRnet. I'm sure it'll come up somehow.
Yeah.
LinkedIn at SBRnet. I don't use Twitter and X much because, quite frankly, I can't figure out what they are. And F Elon Musk anyway.
I hate that I use it, and I can't wait.
I don't use it.
I can't wait till all the sports guys move to a different app. But I hear you, man. So
I mean, I wish. It's funny when Meta created what do they call
Threads? Threads.
Yeah, it's just never seemed to.
I tried BlueSky. I tried Threads. I tried them all. Like, you know, it's hard. I think Mark Cuban has one called Starlight. I think he sponsored one as well. So
really, I would love to try one of these, but
the traction's not there. It's hard.
It's a numbers game, dude.
It is. So
Brad, thanks for having me on the show. I really enjoyed it. I hope you'll have me back.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you back anytime you want. All right, man. Appreciate it. Thanks.